Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of the shows while they are live, but most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, simply mute the page you are currently listening to, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the discussion and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please do not swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please do not try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. If you do join the Hangout, please speak immediately so we know that you're not here to snipe the show or cause trouble. Please just say a few words when you get into the Hangout and leave your mic open. With that, I'm going to transition straight across to the Hangout and say one last time, if you're new to the channel or you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. And with that, I will make my first introduction. So how are you doing, Sleeping Warrior, first of all?
Morning, dude.
And how are you doing, Ranty?
Morning.
Morning to you two. Very nice morning.
Cold.
Cold, but clear. Nice, pretty.
Did you get snow overnight?
No, but they did in Houston, apparently.
Yeah, we got snow.
We never get snowy, ever. I think it's been about 7 years since we had a bit. Even then, it didn't last. Lasted about 3 hours.
Yeah, 7 years is about last. Last time we got it was 2010. It was the second year we lived in this house, and it was horrendous. We bought snow chains for all the vehicles, and then never used them because it's never had snow since.
Right, enough of the small talk. I want to ask Ranty a direct question immediately. So, my understanding from yesterday's debate, Ranty, was that Paul from the chat debunked his entire argument with one question. Can you tell us what question that was?
It was a very beautiful moment and something that we hadn't actually thought about, to be fair. But when he said it, it made complete sense. When he said, Anthony, Shane, Nathan, can you tell us where Ramsay is, please, on the Isle of Man? And he's laughing his head off at it, laughing his head off. And, you know, it's clearly not seen in the image. I mean, for whatever reason, it's not there. But that kind of debunks his entire argument, because if he's saying the entire island is being loomed up, including the far end of the Isle of Man and even Ireland, so the refraction and the looming of the island is lifting the entire island up, then we should have seen Ramsay. So that kind of debunks his argument. But it just so happened that in the actual place where he's talking about, we did have a nice clear line of refraction. One of the few areas on the actual image where you do actually see a little bit of refraction. And it's our supposition that the Ramsay is actually merged into that murky layer of air there. But as I say, it completely debunks his argument, because if the whole image was being refracted up and loomed up, then Ramsay would have been loomed up too.
Very interesting.
Ramsay, have you got the back thing sorted?
Yeah.
Did I see somebody pop up in there then?
I don't think he's got the Hangout up, is he?
To be honest, every single time I start the show, I end up repasting the link, so I shouldn't really be chatting to you guys. I should be checking if it's there, so I'll do that now while you chat amongst yourselves.
You also seem to have a bit of echo or reverb coming through, Nathan.
That could just be because both gates are open at the same time, but I'll go on mute. It should solve itself.
I'm sure I saw somebody appear in the back chat.
Maybe did.
I'm just trying to... Yeah, there we go. Pop out chat. Now I can see the abuse from chat. All right, so... Manifest the absurd. That's a saying that I'm familiar with.
Well, how do you think that, though, seriously? I mean, after yesterday's... When he came in and said that their entire argument is the only reason we can see this far is because the entire island is being loomed up. So we're talking about 2 miles of loom in Ireland. We're talking around about 1,200 feet at the lighthouse. You know, so we're saying that all this is being loomed up. So if the whole island is being loomed up and it's in proportion, everything is being loomed up, then where the hell is Ramsay then? Yeah, exactly. That is the question that needs to be asked, because this debunks the ball Earth argument completely.
Yeah, it can't loom up from behind if it's going to be selective over which bit looms up and which bit don't.
I suppose it's a bit like gravity, selective gravity.
What about I can't share my sounds. Well, if we get sniped, if we don't get sniped, then I can't pass the sounds through, can I, through the hang when I share screen?
No, not unless you've got some sort of virtual audio cable or a desk.
Oh. Just trying to remember what the virtual audio cable is called.
I see skid marks in. Ramsay is clueless as usual.
Where were we? I need
the link should be there now. It should be working.
We got the link out. Right, okay.
So if you want to join the debate, simply click the link in the info box that should have been there at the beginning of the show.
If you do join, you need to speak immediately, by the way, just so that I don't kick you.
Ramsay admitted viewer height was 30 meters. No.
No, he didn't.
No.
Go and watch the video again. Get your facts right.
It depends on what ruler you're using. If you're going to use Ordnance Survey map, we used it. And we used it on the other side too, to make sure it was fair. And that didn't go the way that was hoped, did it, Paul? Right, I'm just thinking how I can... Because Sean Hufford was on last night, and I saw Ramsay getting bullied. So I just went in to see what was being said at the time, to see what they were talking about.
Bother me, it's water off a duck's back, mate. But it's when they misrepresent that there's an issue. He said that I had specifically said in chat that I did not have him blocked on any of the Google or YouTube, which was a complete lie because I didn't say a single word. Now, he was blocked. He was blocked. I was looking back, actually, when I was discussing it with you in Skype, and it was 9 days ago when we found out the reason how we can block certain people from entering into the chat. So I had him blocked from then, literally. So that's the reason he couldn't get in yesterday. But I never said in the chat. He said that I had said a deliberate lie and said I did not have him blocked because I didn't say a single thing to him. I didn't say anything in chat, and I didn't say anything in verbally saying that I had him blocked. So he did an entire hangout on this, which was utter lies, pure lies. And then he went on to do another hangout with me in the chat, and I'm saying to him, look, it doesn't matter if you're blocked on YouTube. You have to be blocked in Google Plus for you to not join in a hangout. And he wouldn't have it. He was saying that you have to be blocked. You only need to be blocked on YouTube. Utter tripe. You have to be blocked in Google Plus. And he was blocked in Google Plus 9 days
about Sean. He misrepresents
it. He misrepresented everything. He's just full of...
He misrepresents me all the time. That's why I don't bother with him.
Full of poo-poo.
Mark Taylor, Nathan Oakley, still not identified the chimney yet? Well, that's the task that the ballers have got to do to prove that we are only seeing the Isle of Man. And my position is we're not seeing the Isle of Man, we're seeing Ireland. And that's the reason why them stacks are important. So the onus is not on us to identify it because we've asked for help because we can't identify the chimney stacks because they don't appear to be in Ireland. They don't appear to be in the Isle of Man. So we asked for help. And if it is Isle of Man, only Isle of Man, then it should be dead easy because it's got a square mileage of about 7 or 8 square miles. It's not that big, that land that we're looking at, and we should see a load of chimneys because there appears to be 3 smoke plumes coming out of 3 chimneys. One is more prominent than the other 2 chimneys, but nonetheless, if there's these 3 chimneys there, or at least one, then that should be really easy to find in an 8 square mile distance. And it's down to the ballers to identify it to prove that it's just the Isle of Man. So it's not down to us at the moment because we've said we can't find it. It's not in Isle of Man. But your position is that it is the Isle of Man. Therefore, you should be able to identify the chimney. So let's just clear who it is that's supposed to be doing it. I'm saying it's not the Isle of Man. Therefore, and that's the reason why we've not been able to find the chimneys. But your position as ballers is that it is the Isle of Man and that we're retards. So
Well,
if it is the Isle of Man, then you should have no problem proving that it's the Isle of Man by identifying the stacks.
Well, of course it's Ireland. If you've noticed the way that the ballers have gone about handling this issue was to first come in and deny it, then try to prove us wrong and call us liars, then misrepresent all the landmarks. When all that failed, they then decided to do a boycott. When that's failed and it's not shutting us up, they're now deciding to do hangout after hangout, misrepresenting everything we say and everything we're trying to do here to try and get this information out. So it's now a concerted effort. It's no longer about the evidence. It's more to do with trying to discredit you, discredit myself, and turn it into a mud-flinging exercise to try and muddy the waters. The simple fact is they have nothing. They can't come back with anything. They have zilch. The evidence is already out there. It's undeniable. They cannot get over this. So what they're trying to do is make us seem the most incompetent, unbelievable people so that this evidence will hopefully go away under a storm of poo. It's not going to happen.
I'm going to share my screen, Nathan. If you present me, I'd appreciate it. I am going to make a suggestion to the ballers with regard to the chimney stack. Now, me and Ramsay don't necessarily agree on this, but I'm going to do it anyway because I believe that it's part of the evidence and it needs to be either agreed or disagreed or contrasted or compared or whatever.
Well, let the record show that I just don't think that this is going to add in any way, shape or form to our evidence that we already have in the south. I think it only muddies the waters in the north and gives them a reason to try and discredit the entire observation when all the evidence we have is in the south, which is clear as day, spelled out showing island.
Ramsay thinks
what I'm saying.
Ramsay thinks this muddies the water, but I think this clears the waters quite a lot. I think this adds weight to the fact that we're not seeing Isle of Man. We're seeing other things that are not supposed to be in the picture if you believe that we live on a ball. So what? Yeah, you can see. So what I'm going to do, just keep your eye on back chat, Ramsay.
Yeah.
Just while I'm doing this, because I've got
nobody's gonna, no snipers are gonna get in. Don't worry.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in. I believe that the stacks that I'm looking at are these ones that are in Kilroot Power Station. I spent weeks on this, and Ramsay and I. This is why I rage quitted on Ramsay at one point, and it was the last rage quit that we did, or that I did. Now, what I want to show is that it just kisses. It's just on the edge of this, the southern tip of Scotland. So if I zoom out a bit now, you can see that. If I reset tilt, just so that everybody that's in America can understand the position. Okay, so this inverted penis is kind of like this is the southern tip of Scotland, and as you can see, that the line of sight is basically just there. It's there. Now, in the hangout yesterday morning, I presented that the grid lines are an issue because if we live on a ball, they've got to bend these things around a ball and give a curve where we don't see a curve. So I'm going to make the point again now to give the context, which I want people to realize, because if we don't live on a ball, there is no curve. Oops, wrong way. Which is my position. So let's get that line of sight back better. Right, let's move that over here. To the top of the hill. Now, there's the line of sight. Put grid lines back on.
Got Paul in the chat asking why we don't see Ramsay.
we just addressed Paul. Oh,
exactly, Paul. If you can tell us why Ramsay hasn't been loomed up, and yet Douglas has, and the island has in the background, if you can tell us that with your looming of this image and the refraction and the looming that's gone on to let us see 2 miles of island and 1,200 feet down to the lighthouse, then sure, tell us why. Why is Ramsay refusing to be loomed up? Why is it refusing when the rest of the island is following suit and rising up? Why has Ramsay decided to ignore that? Come on, tell us. You're more than welcome to come in and tell us. Tell us why Ramsay hasn't loomed up.
Can you clarify your position though, Ramsay? Why do you say Ramsay hasn't been loomed up?
Well, clearly, I mean, you can actually see exactly where Ramsay is. You can see where the refraction is taking place at the bottom of the mountains. It's curving under itself, and it's reflecting the sky back down on the actual water. So you can see that there is some refraction going on in that area, whereas the rest of the island is nice and clear. Doesn't suffer from the same refraction layer in that particular area of the map.
I'll show that on screen while I've got it on. I've just finished off one.
Better off to show
Right, so the answer to the question, why is Ramsay not in the picture? Ramsay is about here somewhere on the image, right? It's not a big town, but it is coastal, and we would expect to see it if the Earth was flat. However, we see evidence that tells us that there's something else going on here. And because we don't live on a flat Earth, we don't have the science to explain this, because this is not what they tell us. We don't have this thing to explain this. They say that this is the curvature of the Earth, but this proves that this is not curvature of the Earth, because this is not consistent with the curvature of the Earth. This is consistent with a band of mirroring or obstruction of reflection or whatever you want to call it, but it starts here and it goes right the way across this. That's where Ramsay is. So if the island was all being loomed back up according to Paul's magic maths and Mick West's magic nonsense and the metabunk calculator thing and this refraction thing, if all this was really happening, Ramsay would indeed be loomed back up from behind the curve of the Earth, because over on the other side of the island there's like 2 miles of curvature that's missing. So it makes sense that there's like the curvature would be compensated for here too. Unless Paul's got evidence to suggest why it wouldn't, I would assert that this is being blocked by this mirroring horizon, dirtier, whatever you want to call this bit. It goes from here and it goes right the way across. And that's why Ramsay is. It's behind that reflection line. And that's not something that we can control. We can't interpret it other than it is what it is. But nonetheless, it's not curvature. Because if it was curvature, the way you guys believe it is, it would all be loomed up above the horizon, wouldn't it, Paul? Because that's what your position is.
Okay, and I just want to address Seated Doubt in the chat, actually, because he keeps asking the most ridiculous questions. He's saying, how come we can't identify landmarks in Ireland 132 miles away? Right. Firstly, Anthony scrolled by very quickly with a P900, which is not the best camera in the world for getting super clear images. It's not the best. It's just a zoom camera. And because he was moving quickly left to right and he came back again, and you're asking us why it's the same sort of retarded question saying, how come we can't see Australia from fucking England? Sorry, excuse the language. How come we can't see Australia from England? You're retarded. Simply retarded. 132 miles away, you'd be lucky to see anything. We just happened to capture it. Well, Anthony did. And the fact that we can't identify individual landmarks, that is the most retarded question I think I've ever heard.
So can I just clarify, this band of refraction that we see masking Ramsay, would that be the same type of band of refraction that usually covers the entire image and we're told is curvature? Is that the type of band of refraction we're talking about here?
Well, that's on the Ball Earth model, isn't it? Of course, they say that that's the bendy light from behind the curve of the Earth. However, this is clear evidence to prove that it's not bendy light from behind the curve of the Earth, and there is actually a layer of dirty air that we can't see for some reason, but it is there because this is proof, Paul. So how would this be explained? This is exactly like Soundly when he shows his refraction stuff, which you all believe is curvature as well. This is completely consistent with Soundly stuff because his bridges show the exact same thing. So why is it that this is the curvature of the Earth, Paul, when it's evidently in the picture right now, it's some kind of optical mirage-y thing? Where are we getting this wrong, Paul? Can you explain this scientifically on your model? Why is this not loomed?
So that's our response as to why we don't see Ramsay. Now we want to address your response, basically saying that everything is being loomed up. So if everything is being loomed up, then Ramsay should have been loomed up too, correct?
Yeah.
Simple as that. So if we can't see it, who's correct then? If we cannot see it, who's correct? Are we correct if it's just being hidden by a band of mirage? Or are you correct because it should have been risen up and we should have been able to see it? And if we can't see it, who's correct? You or I?
Bearing in mind that we've had absolutely no demonstration whatsoever using the evidence to conclusively prove either way that there are any miraging effects looming up the island. There is literally zero evidence of that. The only evidence is coincidentally where we're missing Ramsay. And that is conclusively just refraction. It's there in the image, you can demonstrate it, simple.
That's it, and that's the best part about this image, and I'm glad that he brought this to our attention yesterday, because that little band of refraction.
And to be honest, in my opinion, Paul Voigt on his little protest, I think we should leave him in chat and not even address him until he comes on the panel and stands by his words. Because let's not do this by chat. There's other things that we can talk about, and we don't have to dominate it with Isle of Man unless he's going to join and prove that we're wrong. Let's leave him in chat. Let's leave him on his protest and let him keep his protest position. Okay. I don't think we should negotiate with him at all in chat, because if he's going to protest, why shouldn't we? Let's play them at their own game and ignore him.
Well, should he join, the first question that he'll need to answer is, why are we seeing Ireland at 145 miles being loomed up around about 2.5 miles of the curvature, and yet the closest thing to us isn't? Doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah, and that is a really important point. If all this land is supposed to be loomed up behind Isle of Man to bring it into sight, why are we seeing the lighthouse 30 miles away? It's supposed to be gone behind the curve of the earth. So,
Seems like in this instance, the curvature gets less and less the further you see. It's amazing. That's if you live on a ball. For me, it's just a bit of refraction.
Right, let me go back to the other point I was making, because this is quite interesting, this. I said yesterday about the bendy lines, okay? They have to bend the lines because the ball that we're supposed to live on. So what this means is that when you're looking in a straight line, it's not actually straight. It peels off and it bends off around weird places. And what that means is that if you follow this line here, you can see that this line takes it out to the Isle of Man. So what they're telling us is that Isle of Man isn't really there. It's some kind of bendy light nonsense, refraction or whatever, because we live on a ball. So really, what is the real position of Isle of Man if they're saying that the line of sight is bendy lines of sight? So back to this point, I've put the line in that lines up perfectly with Kilroot Power Station, which is where I believe that we're looking at. Ramsay doesn't necessarily agree, and he thinks it muddies the water, but that's fine because it is an artifact of the evidence. It does need to be explained, and if they can prove that this is Isle of Man, then it's Isle of Man. But I'm going to make the argument now that this little hump that's here is totally, utterly, and 100% consistent with the tip of Scotland that I just showed you a second ago. So if I now zoom back out of here, and you can see that the tip of Scotland, which is this little bit that's down here, if I zoom in and then turn off these grid lines because they get in the way. Now I'm gonna assert that we are looking at this hump of land, this little penis thing. And what I want you to observe, when I get down low enough, I want you to look at the overall shape of the land. Get rid of, oh, can't really get rid of it. I need it there. So get down to about 200 feet because it flips down into street view. Now look at the hump shape of this. Okay. Now bear in mind, Ramsay doesn't necessarily agree with me on this, but this is the hump of that southern tip of Scotland. My position is it appears to match the hump of Scotland there. I would say that that's a perfect match. And if I zoom in a little bit more, you can see that there is indeed the color change because you've got dark colors there, you've got a light color there. There is a contrast there between the two land layers. But these two dots, on this still image, one of these dots is flying, it's a plane. The other one is static, and it's not a plane. Now, what I want to show you is, I think the brighter one is the plane. The other one is the thing that's static. Now, bearing in mind that in the background, if I pick the elevation up a little bit, you can see Ireland, okay? Now, obviously, that's looking behind the ball. We don't live on a ball. We live on a flat plane. But the shape of that land there matches the shape of that land that's there. So my position is, this is probably Scotland here. That's Ireland in the background, okay? But this dot is where I want you to look at. Because if I come round here and then change my camera line so that I now look to the building, we can see on that building, there is a lighthouse. Now, if I go down into this little man view and I put a little man on here at this point here so that we can see what the lighthouse looks like, we can go up to the top here and we can see that there's a lighthouse here. And the Google card did go here, so we get to see quite a cool point. Now, my position is that it's quite possible and it matches the evidence. And I'm not saying it's fact. Don't go crazy. You can quote me on it, but I'm asking the question, is that the same as that? Given that the land it sits on has the contrast change between the land in the background, and therefore this would be the same color. This would be the land that's behind me. So if I come out of this view, oh, this is so hard to do this. Right, let's get back out of the screen. Totally lost my bearings now while it's done that. So let me revisit. Let me work out where I'm supposed to be. Reset. Right, let's go back down to this tip of land. Right, I'm going to assert. So my position is that we're seeing this hump of land that's here with the lighthouse that's on it, and this land that's here would be consistent with this land that's here because it's of the same colour. That appears to support the position that we're looking at the southern part of Scotland, and we're looking at the lighthouse on it. Now, if you really want me to show you that the other one's moving and it flies across the screen, I will do. But if you just accept me that that is the case because I've checked it. But in any event, the light that there does appear to be the lighthouse that sits on the corner. Lines up absolutely perfectly. So I'm going to ask Paul, the troll in chat, if this is wrong, Paul, can you explain why? Because it seems to match absolutely perfectly with what we see. Now, I'm not saying absolutely certainly that it is. But if it looks like a dog and barks like a dog, it's probably a dog. And that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing what looks like a dog. So unless I've got a cat, Paul, and you'd be the one that would prove it, can Paul explain to anybody why it is that we have a mound of earth that matches that mound of earth? We have Scotland to the right of it. And if you notice that they're the same colour on here and they're the same colour on here, so this makes sense that these are closer than this stuff in the background. But I want to add further to that. If this is Ireland in the background, I want you to look at that little thin light-coloured line indicating that there might be two mountains. Okay? So, I've lost my line. I need my line in. You'll have to bear with me while I put my line back in. So, if I put the line in from there, and I put the line back in over here somewhere, I got the line of sight. So, let's zoom that back down to here. And look up. And move into here. We're looking for something. Like, what are these boundary lines? I need to take these off. Borders and labels. There we go. And I want the elevation enhancer on it so I can see the peaks. Now, there's the line. So, do we see it's going to be around here somewhere? Is there a ravine in the back? Oh, there's a ravine in the background. So perhaps this line here, this thin blue line, maybe that is this line that's here. And the stuff behind it is the land in the background with the ravine in the background, which would be there. I mean, I'm stupid. I'm only a flat earther. But I'm finding evidence that doesn't seem to support the idea that we live on a ball. And I have to look to physicists like Paul to get the answers. And that's all I'm doing. I'm looking at, I'm saying that there's a ravine line here. Also matches the ravine line that's there. And there's another ravine there. And there's another ravine there. And if I bet you if I zoomed into this ravine in the background, there's probably going to be something big and white that's on the hill. Oh, look, there's something big and white on the hill there. What's that? I wonder if that would be able to be seen on the line of sight. That's big. That's a quarry of some kind. Or there's a big building there. So, I mean, this is why it's difficult for us to identify these chimneys, because it's so far out for us that
we can't do this on our own. We
no.
can help.
But again, in the context of this living on a ball nonsense, which my position is we don't live on a ball, and if it is a ball, it's huge, and we can't detect any curvature. If I go back down here and then turn the grid lines on, this is the view grid. Spin it back up. Can you see that the lines are really bendy? So what I'm suggesting is that when you've got Isle of Man over here, it's actually nearer to us. It's on the angle, it's reducing the angle. That's coming in as well. And it matches exactly what the real world shows. Because this doesn't show what we see. I mean, look at how much these lines are bending. And these are straight lines of sight. So these are obviously the longitude and latitude lines on the grid. But in real world, these aren't bendy lines. These are straight. We're seeing these. This is like seeing the lighthouse. It's just there. It's not a mirage. It's not a hologram or a reflection or looming being brought up from behind the curve of the earth. This is another one of those science fiction things that I assert is inconsistent with the real world because we've got evidence that doesn't support it. So I need to ask somebody intelligent because I don't know what Paul could explain this dead easy, I'm sure. So just to be clear, Paul, my position is this. I'm asking the question, we seem to have land that lines up perfectly with the evidence. Drop it back down now because I'm close to it. Zoom in down here. All right, so we have a hump in the foreground. We have another hump that's clearly in the foreground, but a little bit behind this one. There would be the hump in the foreground. There's another hump in the background, but it's still in the same foreground, but it's just a little bit behind because we see the overlap. There appears to be a lighthouse on the top corner, and it appears here as well. The other one's a plane, and we see the ravine in the background. All lines up. Trouble is, the field of view that you guys are giving us on the Google Earth, you're only giving us a minuscule amount of observation. So it's totally out of the line of observation. So you guys are only giving us from round about there-ish to about there. But I've just shown you that we appear to be getting at least that line of sight on that side. And Ramsay argues that we're seeing down here. There. Which is my position. That seems to be the field of view. Okay. Paul says it's only this. Okay. Well, how do you explain this evidence that seems to line up perfectly in the evidence, Paul? Again, there's the bump. There's another little bump in the foreground. Same color. Paul made the point that there's I can't remember the name he gave to it, but it was Alkir. Alkir gave a really nice name. But this is clearly in the foreground. Clearly in the foreground. Same color. Then you have the contrast of land behind. This lump here matches this lump that's here. And the land behind it, it all matches. And there happens to be a white dot on the hill that looks just like a lighthouse. Is that coincidence, Paul? Because if it is, you're going to have to show what else it can be.
Well, if you're asking Paul to do anything, you might have a long time waiting, because do you remember a couple of weeks ago?
What, when I asked him for the molten Curie temperature of iron self-perpetuating, is that the time that you're on about?
That's one of the times, yeah. I mean, you must have asked him about 20 times for that, and he's still not come back with an answer for you. But no, they were arguing about the composite, and they were saying how is there an echo there for some reason? Right, okay. So they were saying how the composite was rubbish, and they could do better, and it was totally out of there, and it was really, really, really poor. Yeah, and they were all supposed to be going away and redoing this composite on their own with the high definition video that you released, and they still haven't done it. They're still using mine. They're still using mine. Does that tell you anything?
Paul's supposed to be bringing evidence of molten iron self-perpetuating itself, and there isn't any evidence, and that's why he's not done it. But you would expect a physicist to be able to find that evidence, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but the point that I'm trying to make is this is just another indication of the mudslinging that they do. They were trying to downplay the evidence with the composite originally. That was their intention. But when faced with the challenge to go and make a better composite, and they all agreed that they would go away and do this, they still haven't returned with one, have they? They're still using mine. So yeah, so just thought I'd put that out there, because if we're relying on these people to do anything, you've got a long time to wait. They just flap the gums in chat. That's all they are, keyboard warriors.
Yep. So Paul says in chat, why are you claiming you can see Scotland when you didn't pan that far right? Okay, for the dumb person in chat, there appears to be evidence that supports that we're seeing Scotland, because there is a hump there that matches the hump size and shape. There is a lighthouse. There is a white dot emanating from there. This one's a plane, it's moving, but this one's static, it's not. There is a dot that appears there, and that happens to coincide with a lighthouse. And then we appear to see land that is appearing to the right-hand side, and it's of the same tone, so it indicates it's of the same land. And you can see that there's an overlap there, Paul. This seems to match with what we're seeing here, Paul. This is why I'm suggesting that we might be looking at Scotland, and those bendy lines, the bendy grid lines, Paul, are not actually grid lines in real world. They're simply nonsense that you guys believe because you think we live on a little spinning ball. Well, this is clearly evidence supporting the idea that we are in fact looking at Scotland. There's the two pieces of land, Paul, and it's so poignant that it's an inverted penis as well, by the way. This evidence in the background would then make sense that it's the only land it could possibly be, and it's not behind the curve of no earth. So again, Paul, if you can't identify the stacks, which my position is that you won't be able to because they're not in Isle of Man, you're going to at least explain why this is wrong, because you should be able to show something on the Isle of Man that matches these two peaks. I'll do it for you, okay? Because we've done this many times, and me and Ramsay have disagreed on stuff. But ultimately, my position is, if it's in the evidence, it needs to be explained. So Paul's position, if he's going to adapt the narrative that we're looking at Isle of Man, Paul's position is this. So if we go to the right-hand side here, I'll give you that appears in the picture. I don't agree with you, but it does appear to match. So the interpretation, I would say that on itself is a match. And indeed, it was what we were basing everything on when we were doing our own work, trying to work out what was going on here. However, this is where it starts to not become the same. When we go down here, if you look at the actual topology of this land that's here on the Isle of Man, not only do you see it represented in front of you, but you can get the lines of all the heights, the elevations, all the way down here. And basically, the position on the Isle of Man is that it drops off. Once you get beyond this ridge, there's a little ridge here. And imagine this ridge is like when you put your hand under a quilt and you play like the monster under the bed with the dog. That's where your arm would be under the quilt, and it's creating a tunnel. But once you get past that tunnel bit, and it's basically immediately after this thing stops, all the land down here is basically dead low. So, I mean, I'll show you. This is how we worked out that it wasn't the Isle of Man. And this is where Sly Sparkane has messed up as well in his video. I saw his video late last night. And
just while you've got that image up, can I just stop you just for 1 second and just point something out? That from that ridge, if you can just draw a line from the ridge you're talking about to the back end of the island, right, that is how much land you have got. If you believe this is all Isle of Man, to find those chimney stacks, that's it. It's probably less than 10 square miles. There's virtually nothing there. It's teeny tiny amount of land. And that is apparently, according to the Globers, who say this is all Isle of Man, where those chimney stacks must be. Well, it's not exactly a great deal of land to look for them on. So chop, chop, chop. Where's that chimney stack if we're looking at the Isle of Man?
And it won't be the case that we'll forget, because the reality is this, Paul. If you think that it's that, okay, but you've got to prove that it is the Isle of Man by identifying the stack. There's at least one stack there, but my position is that there appears to be 3. All right, bit crazy, but nonetheless, that is my position. However, watch this. Oop, balls. So we can show with the elevation profile, and we can just put triangles in here to see where the peaks and the high points of this land is. And you can see as we run round from the top, I mean, we're at that turret part that I was telling you where you put your arm under the quilt. And then we get to the back, it drops off. Bit of a peak there at the back, but then it goes all the way flat down this back edge, okay? And then as it comes around here, it's flat. Shut up. Hang on. So as we come around the front here, it starts to peak up again as we get towards this, what do you call it? But when I say peak up, we're only at 100 feet here. So it's the peak of a low level line of land. So remember scale. This is the bit that ballers struggle with. Now it doubles its height to 250 feet. But it's only whilst we're close to this stack, this mound. But then the minute we get away from the mound, it drops back off again. Down the back edge, it's flat again. And then when you come back again towards this area here, you can see that the land picks back up again. And it's only to 180 feet, 190 feet. But then it drops back off again. So you can see by the way that the land sits that it's a tunnel that goes down here that's got a hump on it. But the hump, the highest part of the hump's only 259 feet. So it's a hill. So we have to remember scale. Now, this is where Sly Sparkane gets his observations from last night wrong, because he's failing to realize that the low elevation here means that we're never going to see any of this land, because it's basically sat on that band of dirty air,
tied in Ramsay.
Yeah. Now, what we can see is that the land here drops down, and there appears to be an overlap here. There appears to be an element that goes down here. And I'm going to assert that that is consistent with what we're looking at here. I'm going to assert that the line that we see here, this tunnel, where it's a little bit elevated, is consistent with this bit, because that's what the evidence I've just shown you tells us. But everything that goes after is going to be sat basically right on this little horizon here. And it's dead small. Ah, rubbish. I need to get rid of that now. I've done it again. I need to cancel that. So all of this land here is very, very, very low to the horizon. And it's going to do what the same that the land that's here does, which is basically be refracted away because of what they call curvature, but what we call something else because we don't have the science to explain it. But I call it dirty air because we don't know what we're looking at. And we do see that there is evidence here of a little bit of refraction sat here. Now look what happens here. Whatever's going on here, by now we're in Ireland, by the way. This is Ireland in the background. Whatever's this, I don't know why there's a peak and a trough here, but I think it's got something to do with water's edge. And I think that what we're looking at here is the point where Isle of Man stops. And this is why we seem to get this water elevation lining up, because I think that Isle of Man is stopping somewhere along here. And that's the extent of the Isle of Man, because it's only 4.7 miles from Ramsay, which is like a bit further off the screen, to the tip. So it's like we're only talking about 1.25 miles here. I mean, I'll put the lines on so you can see it. Give me a line. So from there to the tip, it's 3 miles. And my position is that we're seeing this bit here is the Isle of Man, and it drops down in front here, right on the line here. And I think this is the 3rd mile here. This is where the Isle of Man stops. But in the background, we have these chimneys, but we also have this new land that appears to be Scotland. But with regards to the idea that we're living on this ball and all these lines are bending all over the place, if you look at the field of view now, I'll put these lines back on. View, grid. So if I put these lines back on, you can see, I need to get in a little bit, because it doesn't always put them on consistent, and I've just got to stop it in the right place so that they stay on the screen, because otherwise they go off. Can you see how they're going off? What I'm saying is that these things are actually not as far over to the left as what these grid lines are indicating because of the apparent curvature of the Earth. I'm saying that this is nearer to the right, and this stuff over to the right is nearer to the left, and it's more centralized in the middle. So these bendy lines are bending what we believe we live on, but in real world they're not bending at all. They're just there. So there is no bending. So this is creating a perception that there is curvature. And look how much it's supposed to be. It's literally bending straight into that land over there. But light doesn't work like that. According to their model, light travels in straight lines. So you can't have bendy light unless, of course, this is some kind of magic refraction nonsense. But I've just demonstrated why this is, in my position, this appears to be Scotland. And I don't think anybody can disagree with that, although Ramsay does. Because he's a argumentative sod. But I think that we're looking at Isle of Man possibly here. I don't think it is, but it possibly does line up. But the rest of the island is really, really low. But there is an alternative suggestion for what this might be in the area that we're looking. And this is more where I believe. Put my line back in. We have a line. Zoom back out quick. All right, so I'm going to put this line into there, and I'm going to focus in on the grid lines. I'm going to focus in on the power station, but I want it to be a look at the line of sight, because the power station, I've got 3 thumbtacks that we should be able to see.
Well, to be fair, this is the only thing that I do agree with you on now, and that is the fact that it's the only coal. Who's got the thing on? Right, yeah, the only coal power station in Ireland, in that location. So, and also the stack is massive. So, yeah.
Kilbrook Power Station stack is one of the highest structures in the whole of Ireland. It's 600 and something feet tall. It's huge.
You sent me this. You sent me the video, and I've scrutinized it, and you can clearly make out a massive tower structure with smoke coming out of it.
Well, I'll show that in a sec. But what I want to show is in relation.
Yeah, just let me finish though. But you can't really see it when you present it on YouTube. It doesn't show it as clearly as it does when you've got the high definition here, because it gets compressed as it goes through YouTube. So what they see, they might see it if they look hard enough, and you can see it sometimes. But basically, when you see it visually in your own hands, and you can see it, and you can, you've got the full high res images, you can see a clear tower. It's very tall, it's very thin, like a cigar shape, and you've got smoke coming out of the top of it, and it's billowing out, literally billowing out. You can see the smoke coming out of it. So there is definitely a massive chimney there, and the only chimney we can find is that massive power station with coal. So
it was actually one of the first things identified And it's been the bane of my life ever since, because you guys have searched and searched and searched to try and find it. And basically, you've been tearing your hair out because you've been following a sightline on Google that's completely skewed after about 30 or 40 miles. You know,
Yeah.
it will roughly line up on some of the things on the Isle of Man. That's why we have scale differences between the globe side and flat Earth side. But the problem is when you try and go any distance, it completely throws off where you're looking at. Completely.
Yeah.
So you drive yourself mad trying to find it. And, you know, it's only since Anthony's put out an appeal and said, what do people think this is? And they've all come back with exactly the same answer.
So if we look at this mouth, this gaping mouth, this would have to be pretty tall, because we're only talking 200 feet or 250 feet in Isle of Man, which, you know, if we're working on that scale, I could accept that would match, because it was where we first started working on. We were working on this being Isle of Man, but then nothing lined up. Now, Paul's on about bearings and all that in thing. Well, I'm not interested in bearings, Paul. I'm interested in what matches the evidence, because we tried to do the bearing thing and we couldn't get everything lined up. If we lined it up to, based on this stitch bit being an Isle of Man, then everything else didn't work. So this is why we considered something else, because it wasn't matching the evidence. And I don't care what the math says, Paul. I'm looking at what the evidence tells me. So if you're going to argue maths ahead of evidence, tough. I'm just not going to agree with you. Like, you won't go anything other than non-standard refraction if it appears to look flat. Well, I'm not going to agree with the maths. Forget the maths. It's not. We're looking at real world. So I've shown why these appear to be Scotland, and it supports it. There appears to be a light on that is, in my position, or in my submission, it's a lighthouse. And I've talked about these being these stitches, whatever. But in relation to this thing over here, if we are looking really far away, you're going to need something that's like 3, 4, 5 times taller than like 200 feet, which is the cliff size in Isle of Man. So you're talking something that's going to be like 900 feet. So in relation to what I say is the chimney stack, which is around here somewhere, if that's Kilroot Power Station and we're looking into the estuary at Belfast, then I'm looking for something that's like 900 feet. And there happens to be, by coincidence, there happens to be a huge ridge here that is basically, if I put my cursor on the top here, 800, 900, 921, 923, 924. So I mean, call that 900 feet. There is a massive ridge there that I think would match this. Now, it's not the right color, I agree, but there is a ridge that's exactly the right kind of size in the right position in relation to Kilroot Power Station, which is here. So if I zoom back out along the line of sight, all of a sudden this is starting to make a lot of sense, because we've got the stitching that's to the right hand side. But when I go back to Scotland bit, where that humpy bit is, there's the humpy bit. So there's the humpy bit, which would be there. There's the overlay bit in Scotland, which would be there. There's a lighthouse on the corner. And then we've got Kilroot Power Station behind it. So if we go back to this is the line of sight. So we've got the line of sight. So the Kilroot Power Station would be to the right. Now this is over here to the left. Well, this is the line of sight to the what you call it, to the stitch thing, the mouthy thing. Cliff, that's the word. So when we come back into the cliff thing, is the power station to the right? And the answer is, there it is. Now, is it to scale? I don't know. Everything seems to be skewed when you go beyond 50, 60 miles. So it appears to me that this is actually Ireland. The power station is Kilroot Power Station that's here. The boat that's in the picture is the boat that's going to and from there, called the Ramsay. Can you remember what that boat was called, so I can get it on screen?
No, I can't remember. But I think what you're trying to clarify here is basically we're suggesting and we're asserting that the images and the video that you took, right, are of a flat Earth, right?
Yeah.
And what we're trying to do, we are trying to match up landmarks and ridges and buildings on a ball Earth model, right? That's what we're trying to do. So we have the flat image and they have a ball Earth image, right? And it's our assertion that Google Earth works, which is pretty much a given now, that the flat image has been rolled over a ball shape, right? So when you're trying to match up the real world image, which is of a flat Earth, right, with the ball Earth representation, which is over a ball, what you find is that as the further and further away you go, 30, 40, 50, 60 miles, the distances between landmarks and buildings and everything like that, it gets further and further away. So so what you would expect to see you can identify the buildings, but they might not be in the right position because they are being bent around a curvy ball. But so what we are trying to do is we're trying to re-straighten those Google Earth and find out, well, what actually matches up, which building is where, and then we can, because we think we know what's happening with the south and with the mountains in Ireland in the south. So we're applying that logic to the north. And this is what's allowing us to see beyond what we can physically see on Google Earth and put ourselves into a state of mind where we're actually getting that ball model, straightening it out in our heads, and then repositioning things on the map where we think they should be.
Now, I'll carry on with this boat point, because this boat point for me is kind of important. This is the chimney and the smokestacks that appear to be power stations. This is what I think is Kilroot Power Station.
Just can you get the best frame you can on screen? And what I'll do is I'll see if I can get my OBS to sort of zoom in it a little bit so I can get the biggest picture I can without the chat and stuff. I'll just see what I can do. Give me a sec.
Well, while you're messing with that, let me know when you've got it sorted, because what I want to show you is this boat. Now, this boat we've identified as, it happens to be this boat. Now, bear in mind, it is facing the opposite way. So if you struggle with perspective, ballers, because we know that all people that believe in a ball struggle with perspective, we need to flip this the other way around so it's matching the angle. But if you flip it the other way around, you can see that there's a bridge. There's a bridge.
Hang on, just 1 minute, just 1 minute. Can I intersect here? Because I really need to ram this home to this Paul Voigt, because he's either a troll or he's just simply not listening to what we are saying. When we matched up the south with Google Earth, what I had to do was move the camera in Google Earth almost to the edge of the Isle of Man. It didn't line up when I took the image from where Anthony took, and that's the whole point. The closer you get to the location that you're looking for on Google Earth, the less of an impact that curvature has already had, because it doesn't take effect. It takes effect only when it goes on a certain distance. So that's why we were able to get it to match up, right? That's a simple fact. If I tried to do it, you tried to do it, everybody tried to do it when they took a screenshot of the Isle of Man from where Anthony was stood, and it didn't work because it's a ball shape. By the time we get to 50 miles away, all the landmarks are all over the place. The parallax is wrong. So we had to move the camera nearer to get the representation that we were looking for in the real world by straightening out Google Earth.
Do you want to just, Ranty, can you bring up for me, please, what you have matched? Because in the real world, Google, if you zoom into your town from a couple of miles away, it has to be representative.
Yes, it does. Yeah, I mean, for them to make this, for them to fool you with this, it has to look as you would expect it to look in the real world. So if you went on a fishing boat and you was 5 miles offshore and you looked back to the land and you saw it, and then you went home and looked at it on Google Earth, it would look pretty similar. But if you went 50 miles away, Jack Ryan, hi. All right. Hello.
Hello, Jack. How you doing?
Oh, son, my name's Jack. You boys are doing some fine work. Am I on right now?
You are.
Hello?
Hello, yeah, you're on now.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi.
Hello?
Good to have you, Jack. Nice to see you.
Guys are doing.
Doing
In
well.
1953, me and my wife's dead now, we went to Isle of Man place. A lot of changes now. A lot of people think the earth is round, and I can tell you.
Cool.
Is this working? Son, is this working?
Yeah, we're hearing you. Yeah.
It's a very bad line, though.
Coming through nice and clear.
Really?
Well, yeah, we can hear him, yeah.
I wouldn't describe that as clear. I'd say that was fragmented to death. It might be on a mobile with no
I'll
signal.
be right back. My phone's gone, son.
Okay.
No worries. Stay with us. Hopefully you can come back after your phone call. So yeah, Ranty, just before we lose track of where we were, can you bring up your lined up images so you can show how it visually matches? Simple as that.
Yeah, sure. One sec.
Thank you very much. And then we will get back to your boat in a minute, Anthony, and hopefully Jack as well.
That was my son from university, you know. And I'm trying to tell him that the earth ain't round, but he ain't listening. Back in Saigon in 1978, I was with an artillery group, and we didn't use no Coriolis effect. And back in Saigon, we had this huge tower. It must have been over 100 feet, and you could see for miles. Explain that on a globe Earth. Hello, is this working?
Hello?
I don't
Yeah,
think this
It is
working.
working, but none of us think the Earth is a globe. So, to be perfectly honest, I would say yes, your tall tower that you were looking for miles and miles from makes perfect sense because the Earth is
In
indeed flat.
Saigon, absolutely.
Sure. So yeah, the Earth is flat, and that's why. That would be my simple answer.
Right. Mr. Oakley, I think you're a wonderful person.
Thank you very much. I
And
think you're a
Sleeping
very good
Warrior,
guest.
I could not think highly of you. But that Mr. Anthony Riley, you guys have to cut him loose. Can you hear me, son?
Yeah,
No,
Anthony
he-
Riley's a good guy, but thanks for your opinion. So yeah, if you can show us what's on screen, Ranty, in terms of how you've matched it up and what we're looking
Oh,
at.
Randy, you're a fine person, too. I'm so sorry about those chemical burns that you suffered.
I think I know who this
That
is. Now.
must
Is
have
it
been a
Lewis?
terrible experience.
Is this Lewis?
And
Lewis?
back in Saigon in 1974, we dumped all sorts of chemicals on those slopes' asses. We would light them motherfuckers up with napalm.
Yes, very amusing. So anyway, so
Okay.
this is how Ranty's lined up the landscape in terms of how it visually matches. And as I said earlier, if this was your town, you would be expecting it to match visually and look representative of what you see when you go to your town. And that's exactly what we have here. It's matched up and it looks like the photograph, not surprisingly. As parallax isn't an issue unless you're trying to line the peaks up at this particular distance. And we're not. We're trying to line up the landmarks, the things we can actually see and identify, including and down to the landscape itself. You know, you can see the scars in the land. So anyway, if you can just do a few zooms on that for us, Ranty, just so the audience can get an idea of the benchmark.
Well, the first thing I want to say is that this top image from Google Earth was taken at a distance of probably only 8 miles off the coast, whereas clearly Anthony was at least, 40 miles away? But in order to get the representative to match up and all this to match up, I had to move into Google and go to 8 miles away because it straightened out all. Because if I went further back, this landmass here was over here, right? And this hill was over here, and nothing matched up. It was all over the place. Nothing seemed to match up. It was also I had to keep going in and going in until I got the correct proportions for it to match up. I mean, that in itself proves that we're actually trying to match a flat Earth image to a ball. You know, so yeah. So what's what? Are you still there, everybody?
Yeah, we're all still here.
Yeah. Okay. So we have a Moorgold Lighthouse, which is here, perfectly lined up. We have this nice little hill that goes all the way down into Bala-Canal. We have all the ridges on the hill, all the landmarks here, all the erosion. You can see it all clearly in the high contrast image. We come all the way down to Baldrine, which is this little town here. Check between the ridges that we actually are in the right place. Then we come all the way over to Douglas Head, which is here. And then we have all this land here to the left, which is Ireland. And there we have Langness Lighthouse. That's how we lined it up, boys and girls. But it didn't match up when I took the image from where Anthony was stood. I had to go 8 miles off the coast to get it to match up, because by this time Google's little curly ball had straightened itself out.
Isn't this what Sean Hufford was calling you dishonest for?
Well, here's the thing, right? What he doesn't realize, and he seems to think that the parallax issue is an issue with the camera. That's what he seems to think that it is. The parallax issue is an issue with Google Earth, right? We know cameras don't parallax, but Google Earth does. And that in itself is where the whole issue lies. So when we come in and we come to these mountains, you will see things move around. And this doesn't happen with a camera. It only happens on Google Earth because they are trying to straighten the ball out.
We have a person in chat.
How you doing, Tim Osman? You've gone straight on mute, which makes me want to eject you.
Eject him. Yeah, eject him.
I didn't have my thingy. Good job we spotted that then, because
yeah, when people join on mute, it's clear that they don't want to talk, and it's like, if I've told you at the beginning of the show, and a couple of shows before, we've talked about this a little bit, you know, you need to talk, otherwise I'm just going to eject you, because clearly you're not here to talk to us.
Yeah, so like I say, when you zoom in on Google Earth, what happens in Google Earth is you see all these things start moving around and bouncing around and juggling and moving about, because what's happening is the program is resetting itself to look flat. And that's the issue. And this is what they aren't understanding. They cannot comprehend this. It's beyond their brain cells to figure this out.
Is that actually Tim Osman? Can you hear us? Yeah, you've left your mic open, but you've not said anything.
Yeah, too late.
I don't trust him.
No, I don't trust him either.
Given that he's put the video out recently saying that he was boycotting everybody, and now he appears to be in chat, seems a little bit...
Of all the people who actually said they'd boycott, I think Tim would know what the word boycott meant, and he would actually do it.
Yeah, I think Paul should understand what boycott means as well in chat. It's like, we're actually pandering to you in chat. It's like a little bit ridiculous, but nonetheless, it gives us the ability to speak without being interrupted, Paul, with nonsense.
Yeah, I don't want to hear about slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena anymore.
So Paul Voigt, again, trying to misrepresent everything. The reason we matched it up on Google Earth was because we had to go into Google Earth and place ourselves around about 6 or 8 miles off the coast. And at that position, we were able to get the same lineup with what Anthony Riley had. It didn't work from where we took the image from. So yes, Google Earth works great when it's close up, but from long distances, the ball falls apart. And this is what Anthony's trying to get to. This is what he's trying to do. He's trying to condition you to think this way, because we are working on a ball in Google Earth. So when he's showing you these power stations that are in Belfast, you have to understand where he's coming from and how he's got to this position. How the curve of the Earth of the ball model is taking things away. PSK Boxing, hi.
If you leave me now, you'll take away the biggest heart of me.
That's lovely. Yeah, thanks for letting us know that.
Cool.
A
little bit trolly today, but reasonably amusing.
Well, the reason why we're in this position isn't because of the grid lines. It is because of the grid lines, but I was trying to look at the evidence to see what the evidence was telling me, and this is where the rage quitting from me and Ramsay happened, because I'm looking at what's there and I'm saying, look, this needs to be explained, and Ramsay's saying, but, and I'm like, but it needs to be explained. And then we were focusing on whether we could see Ireland in the background, not necessarily whether we could identify landmarks of Ireland, because it's too far away, right? So I was looking at it to say, but there is identifiable items there. There is things that we could identify. The problem is you start looking for a needle in a haystack, because, I mean, them chimneys could be anywhere along that coast of Ireland. But it's only when you look at Kill Route and then you think, well, hang on, there's a boat in the image. And then we try and identify the boat, and then we find what the boat is, and then we match that. And then we find out that the boat carries coal and it goes into Kill Route Power Station. So then you look at that, and then I'm piecing together all the other pieces that are in the evidence. Whereas Ramsay's like, yeah, but what happens if it's nowhere near the lines, which is what it is? And we have no explanation for that. But what we realized as time went by was that it wasn't that we had no explanation for it. It's that Google Earth are wrapping it around a ball. And it's in real world, it isn't doing that. But you don't normally get to see this far in real world. So normally, you don't see the distance involved that's necessary to show that curvature of the Earth, or the curvature of the Earth in this case. And what they're showing on Google Earth is the apparent curvature. But in real world, it's not like that. So they're wrapping it around a ball that isn't there in real world. So this is why my position was, but there is things in the evidence here that we can look into. But the problem we were having is we couldn't identify it because it wasn't lining up with anything. So it's true to say that we were getting things lined up in Isle of Man perfectly, but we weren't getting any of the stuff in the background that we claim is Ireland to line up. And that's because it isn't lining up on Google Earth. And that's because Google Earth wrap it around a little ball. The problem is we don't live on a ball. We live on something that's flat.
And what we found that the mountains in Ireland, which are evident behind the lighthouse, they're actually about 3 miles out of position. They need to be moved 3 miles to the right or 3 miles north in order for it to line up. And that's completely consistent with how the curvature of on the ball would have taken them 3 miles to the left. But you're actually seeing them in your video with them directly behind the lighthouse, which is further evidence that that Google Earth is wrong.
Mr. G says, you guys have to at least concede that you cannot measure this stuff without knowing the level of magnification from refraction. Well, according to refraction, it doesn't magnify anything.
Sons of Yoda, hello.
I got Sons of Yoda now in the back chat to snipe you all.
Hello.
He's gone. He's already disappeared.
Did he speak then?
No, he just came in just to get into the back chat. It's just a sniper.
Okay. So, with regards to the idea that refraction on a ball is that this now magnifies stuff, we've not had it being claimed before that refraction also magnifies stuff as well as brings stuff back from behind the curve. This is a new one. So Mr. G claims that now refraction can not just bring stuff back from behind the curve, but that it somehow now magnifies it. But we don't see any evidence of that in the photo. We just see it to be flat. So with regards to the statement that you guys have to at least concede that you cannot measure this stuff without knowing the level of magnification from refraction, hence the necessity for the environmental data. No, actually, I completely disagree. Rob Skiba showed that the atmosphere does have a magnifying effect, and when he did his lake observation, that's inconsistent and completely against this nonsense that you guys talk about on the ball model, anything to do with refraction. He called it atmospheric magnification or something of that kilter. Well, we're seeing the same kind of thing. But guess what? There's no science for this because all the science is based on a ball, and we're not seeing any of that. Paul Voigt, what you can't identify, everybody else has identified. Okay, Paul. So can you tell us where the chimney stacks are, please? That I say are Kilroot Power Station. I'd like to see that, please. So everybody else has identified it. Please bring that evidence, Paul. If you could point your GPS coordinates in the chat, we could check it live for you now. So
that's right. Yeah, I'm glad that he's identified everything in the map. Absolutely brilliant. And I'm glad that show us the chimneys, please. Thank you.
Yeah, just post the coordinates, Paul, in the chat, and we'll do it live.
Nice one, Paul. Thanks.
So we'll let everybody be aware that Paul's identified everything in the picture. So we're just waiting for Paul to give the GPS coordinates for the stack so that we can identify it and then say yes, that's it. Steve Anthony, we couldn't identify it, therefore we identified it. No, Steve Anthony, that's not what we said. If we tried to identify it using a ball on Google Earth, we couldn't identify stuff because none of it was lining up. But when you do it based on the actual evidence, in other words, you reject the ball nonsense, then it starts to make a lot of sense. And it was demonstrated clearly with the grid lines. I showed that the grid lines are bending because that's the apparent curvature of the Earth. But guess what? There isn't any curvature of the Earth. It's flat. So that's why none of it's lining up. So what we're actually showing is that Google Earth is failing to identify stuff because it's wrapped around a ball that doesn't exist in real world. It's simply an apparent radius, like Mick West says on his Bendy Light website.
See, he's now asking about GPS. So Steve Anthony, go and watch the video called Flat Earth, QED, the Earth is obviously and observably flat, and understand that this is never going to get any better. So we are now looking at the lowlands because it's the dregs, basically. The dregs that's left over for the globers to pick pieces. But from the closest observable landmark, Morgold Lighthouse, you've got Earth obscuring your view. So from that point on, it's game over for the globe. There's nothing blocking our view. You've got to rely on people believing and understanding that you're seeing something that's on the other side of a hill. You know, that lighthouse is on the other side of a hill. Now, if you've ever walked to a hill and you know that your mate's house is on the other side of that hill, you can't see it because there's a hill in the way. Well, what the globe earthers have to do to convince you, Steve Anthony, is that your mate's house is being projected up above the hill, because that's literally what the mechanics of the globe dictate. You can't see the lighthouse, the closest observable landmark. So it's game over from there on in. All the rest of this stuff that we're just looking at is because it's fun to pick it apart and have it absolutely covered in every single inch. And as for Paul, when you're saying, oh right, so you can't prove what this, that and the other is, well, no, we're just looking at bits of the evidence that haven't been covered yet. You know, they're the dregs, because they're less important, they're closer to us. So if you want to pick apart something, Paul, feel free to pick apart Morgor Lighthouse and give us your crap again about it being a hologram. Or pick apart Lagness Lighthouse, which we see at 50 miles with Ireland behind it, because we've absolutely tied those items down and put our stamp on them and said that is what we are seeing, and evidenced it. So if you want to go and debunk things that we've actually made clear assertions about, go and debunk them. Why can we see Ireland at 145 miles with Lagness in front of it at the southern tip of the Isle of Man that is visible? Why? That's what you need to debunk. This stuff about the lowlands, the simple fact is, we don't know and you don't know. However, we've got a big chunk of Ireland with curved lines going all over the place to go by. You, on the other hand, have got a nice, easy, maybe 7 or 8, maybe 10 at the most, mile squared area of the Isle of Man to find these things that Anthony is detailing. Coincidentally with what looks like a coal ship going towards them. But nonetheless, you know, this ship is obviously between us and the Isle of Man, this giant ship. Yeah, that's between us and the Isle of Man, and the smokestacks on the Isle of Man, according to you, Paul, because we're on a globe. So find it. How difficult can it be in about 10 square miles of land on the Isle of Man? It's the last tip. It's a massive landmark. Come on. These are the dregs.
Paul's commented again.
Hello, got a new guest. How you doing? Natsec Wegnock. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I don't even like his name.
Can you say
Speak with all
hello?
those sixes in it, 666. You kidding me?
Can you say hello to us?
No, I can't. He's been ejected.
Gonna get a couple of seconds to come off mute if you can hear us. No, too late. Nobody wants to actually join and talk. They just want to disrupt the show or snipe you two.
Right,
Yeah.
so Paul Voigt is asking a question in chat, which we're not even going to read.
No.
Paul, we want the GPS.
I want the GPS, yeah. He said
Yeah,
he had
we
the
want the
GPS for
GPS.
everything. Oh, here we've got
Right, so magnification is a form of refraction, by the way, you knuckleheads.
So, Paul, can we have the GPS coordinates, please? We don't want anything from you, Paul, unless you give us the GPS coordinates, because you claim, and if we have to present it to, in fact, what I'll do is I'll take a screen snip, just so that people can see that I'm calling you on this, because this is what we've asked for in the last 2 hangouts. We've asked for help identifying this stack. There appears to be 3 stacks, but maybe there's only 1, and it's a bit of repeat in the thing, in the camera sensor for some reason. But Paul claims that he can identify every, and he puts the word every. Okay, so we want to see what that stack is, Paul. Please present your GPS coordinates for it so we can find it and confirm that it is just Isle of Man that we're seeing. Next comment from Paul Voigt should be GPS coordinates, Paul. When you're ready, we're here for you.
Yep. Just waiting on those coordinates. We can plot them in and we can finally put to rest where this chimney stack is. Awesome. Can't wait. Come on, Paul. So excited because we've spent weeks trying to find this, but if the ballers have actually found it, that's brilliant.
So
Absolutely fantastic.
Steve Anthony says 108 feet. I assume he's referring to observer position. Perhaps refer to Ranty's most recent video in regards to the island observation at 145 miles and what it would necessitate to see that. So again, your focus needs to be debunking Lagness Lighthouse, my friend, because it proves we are seeing Ireland at 145 miles. So yeah, try and focus on that, my friend. Don't lose sight of the prize.
And Corona Extra says, Riley, did you go out there again? And did you find that you was wrong? No, Miles Davis and Al Kay both went back and validated the experiment because they went back to the place and put the idea to rest that I was at any other place other than where I said I was. And at that place on Google Earth, it says that the altitude or elevation is whatever it says. And I stand by that position because we're testing your model. They didn't get the same evidence.
Don't seem to have GPS coordinates from Paul. He's now saying, prove it's a chimney stack. I don't care what it is, Paul. Just you find it on the map and tell us what it is on the map. Because you seem to think you know where everything is, but so far you've proved 0.
Yeah, please, we're waiting. We really are giving you a chance here, Paul. Show us how brainy you Well, you told us you've figured out everything out. Show us where the chimney stacks are, please.
I agree, Paul.
Yeah, come on, man up.
And if you want us, to focus on something we do identify and can pin down and are certain about, then no problem. Let's not focus on these chimney stacks at all. Let's focus on other things that we've identified that we do put our stamp on, like Lagness Lighthouse and Ireland at 145 miles behind it. You can focus on that if you don't want to focus on things that we're not certain about and you're not certain about. But if you're certain about these things that we're certain about, then tell us where you're certain about what Lagness Lighthouse is and what the land behind it and what the land to the left of it is. Because we're certain it's Ireland. But now we're dealing with a different issue that we're not certain about, and you're welcome to join, tell us what this, what we call in quotes, smokestack is, Paul. You seem to know where everything is, so tell us what it is. No coordinates again from Paul.
So just for the benefit of everybody in the audience, I'm now presenting on my screen a message from Paul Voigt from about 10 minutes ago. Sleeping Warrior, what you can't identify, everyone else has identified. So come on, Paul, where's the evidence of the chimney stack? So for the benefit of just Paul, because I know he's struggling with this one because he can't do what he thinks he can do. He thinks he's doing stuff, but he's telling everybody he's doing stuff, but he can't really do it. Here is the chimney stack that we're asking for. It's right in the center of the screen right now, and I'll move it back a little bit just so that you can see it all. And this is the video. It's not been enhanced in any way. There is a structure of some kind with smoke coming out of it, and it is obviously massive. It's huge. So, Paul, come on. GPS coordinates, please.
Can you go back 5 seconds, now probably 10 seconds, and just get it at its closest point, and I'll make it nice and big on screen.
Give me a second, I need to grab this call.
Well, let the record show that Paul, yet again, is letting us down with his claims of things, and he can't prove any evidence for anything. Anthony has asked him many times for the data that he wanted about the iron in the core of the Earth. And he's still not got back to him about that. I'm waiting for him to have presented this composite that he was going to do that will be better than mine, and I'm still waiting for that. And we are still now waiting on the GPS coordinates, which he also seems to not have as well. So it would appear, by all accounts, that Paul is just a keyboard warrior, and basically has
just gone by it again.
This conversation.
You just passed it. You just passed it again, and you didn't pause.
I'm not displaying.
No, Anthony is. I want the bit where it zooms in, you get it. It's really clear at one point on my screen, which means it will come through on YouTube.
Yeah, he's on a phone call, isn't he? That's why he can't speak.
Right,
I'm back, sorry.
Okay.
So yeah, can you just pause it? Sorry, Ramsay. If you can just get it. If you can just get it to the point where it's at its closest and pause it.
Closest or clearest?
Right, that'll do. Stop. I'll just circle it with my mouse because it's nice and clear.
There we go. Look at that.
So this is the landmark, and it's on 2 different videos in exactly the same place on both of the videos. Now, from memory, this is the video that's been published that we've pulled the composite out of. So, for the purposes of continuity, we have used the same video to produce this needle here. However, it's slightly clearer in the one from a different video. But, you know, it doesn't matter. It's definitely in the same place. It's not a boat moving. So there it is. I'm going to draw my mouse from top to bottom.
Just to clarify why it was a little bit clearer on that particular image, it was because Anthony went higher in the third image, the third video that hasn't been released yet. He went to the top of the hill, and that's why he was able to see this tower in the background much clearer.
Yeah, the bottom line is this. If Paul claims, but as his message, what we can't identify, everybody else has identified, you need to apply the Australian accent to it while he does it, because he has that slur to his voice when he speaks like this. But the bottom line is this. We asked for help identifying this because we don't find it. Now, it does line up with Kilbrook Power Station. It does line up with the 2 humps that I showed you of land that appears to be Scotland. That can't be coincidence because it is evidence and it is in the picture. So it might be that it's Isle of Man and there's some weird kind of unusual circumstance going on that we've not seen. But my position is the grid lines are wrapping the land around the shape of a sphere that isn't there.
The thing is, what you'll hear often is, it's been debunked. It's been debunked. This is all you hear, right? The fact that it hasn't been debunked doesn't register with these people. They just like to put that out there and say that it's been debunked. Just as Paul is now saying that he knows where everything is on this map, and we've got it all completely wrong, but they know all the answers and they know where everything is. But when you ask them to prove their claims, they go silent and they refuse to give you anything. So who do you believe? The people that have been here for 2 months telling you that we're seeing Ireland, and the ballers are now on a boycott, and they won't come in.
Paul's descended to the Mark Taylor defence.
What's that? I'm not been.
Chimney stack is nothing more than a collection of blurry pixels. What do you mean you can't identify it?
Right. Okay. So he's gone from identifying everything to being blurry pixels now. Okay.
So basically, Paul, your claim then is of being able to identify everything is nonsense, then, Paul, isn't it? That's what that means.
So I guess he's saying that Jem Panda was wrong when he said that was the Morgold lighthouse. It's only blurry pixels, isn't it?
Just again, just for the record, Ranty, can you go back to your composite and let's just have a look at these blurry pixels when they're compared side by side with what Google Earth should be there.
Well, hang on, just keep my screen running for a sec because I'll show this with the higher contrast on. I'll show you this.
Move your thing out of the way, then move Paul's comment.
I'll put it up here then.
It's hilarious how they say that this is blurry pixels when we look at Soundly's work and we try to compare the two.
Now, here we go, right? So you're looking in this area here. There's what looks like 3 smokestacks coming off, and there's definitely at least 1 stack visible in the picture. The other 2 might be smaller and behind the curve of the Earth. Joke. Right. So we see 1, we see 2, we see 3 smoke coming off the 3 of them. I believe that this is Kilroot Power Station because the land matches up with it in front of it. That I believe is the cliff thing that's to the left of it, 900 feet's worth of. This boat we can identify, and this is the glory about it. This is the glory moment because this boat here, and then we'll pass back to Ranty. Where is my boat picture gone? Give me a second.
All right. I know the day and the time that you actually took this video. So what I can do is I can trace the route that boat took, and I'll be able to bring it up and show you the exact route that it took. Would that help?
That's the boat that goes to Kilroot Station, and when it goes to Kilroot Station, it goes from Scotland, right? And it looks like it's been there, and it's on its way back to Scotland because...
Well, we can check it exactly where it was. I can do that for you. I'll do that today.
So it makes sense to me that this is Kilroot Power Station. The boat's on its way back because it's dumped its load in Kilroot, and now it's on its way back to Scotland to get filled back up again with coal.
We see what happens. These big boats, they have a GPS on them, and every couple of minutes or so, it sends a GPS back. Playing correct. Hello.
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 Correct. Hello.
Hello.
Good to have you. You did say hello. Say hello again.
Hello.
Hello. Good to have you here. How you doing? Playing correct.
Thank you. Thank you.
What can we do for you?
It's very echoey.
It is very echoey. Yeah.
That's just when you first join, it'll stay echoey for a few seconds, but then it resolves itself.
It's very echoey.
Do you have the page that you joined from still playing, perhaps? Maybe the page that you were watching is still being played?
Ah, yes, fixed. Thank you.
Excellent. Got any questions for us? Did you want to state your views about the shape of the
chimney
Earth?
stacks are terrible.
Okay.
The smoke comes out and kills all the wildlife.
I love
It's
these
fucking
trolls.
shit.
I think we're going to get sniped here, Nathan, aren't we?
It's fucking shit. The smoke comes out.
Sorry, no swearing. Thank you very much.
He must have been a troll.
Yeah, he was a troll.
In any event, so Paul, where's the GPS coordinates, Paul? What looks like 3 smokestacks? Are you kidding? You have an overactive imagination. No, Paul, we're not kidding. This is evidence. It's in the picture. You can see it. It's like, you know, that Morgold lighthouse? We can see it. It hasn't been loomed up from behind the curvature of the Earth, Paul. It's there. So, Paul,
How you doing, Mark?
claim
Good to have
you
you.
can identify everything.
Hello, Smiler. Hello, Mark. Earth to Mark. Say hello.
Hi. Hi. Can you hear me?
I can, yes. Hello.
Oh, that's good. I've been trying to get on for a while. Your Hangouts seem to close down pretty quick. But I was wondering, you know, the globe brought up a wonderful point, which I thought would be really good for like a project. If the Globe Boys and the Flat Earth folks got together and basically put some folks in Africa, South America, and maybe Australia, I'm thinking, and basically see what the sky looks like.
I agree.
Because, you know, that would put an end to the whole thing once and for all. I mean, you don't. Hello, can you hear me?
Can you? Can hear you.
Oh, okay. Says
Paul
my
Voigt
app
can-
just closed down.
Paul Voigt could put an end to it all by now by giving us the GPS coordinates because he claims that he can identify everything. So we're asking you to identify what's in the evidence, Paul. GPS, please.
It may be reasonably similar to what you're saying.
I know the Globe Boys. Hello. The Globe Boys came up with a great way to look at this, and that's because, see, the 8 inches per mile squared is a wonderful concept, but it's non-effective for the first 100 miles. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's probably the same thing I'm thinking. And that's why I was thinking we put this South America or Africa and South America thing going.
So to just clarify what you just said. Did you say that the 8 inches per mile squared is not effective for the first 100 miles?
If that wasn't, now see, you're quoting me and I'm quoting someone else because I thought it was pretty funny too, or at least I thought it was funny.
Yeah, but
But it's a great way.
Is that what I'm asking? Is that what you just said? That the 8 inches per mile squared is not applicable for
The first 100 miles, yeah. See, that's a great way to get around any problem you're gonna ever encounter, because there's nothing we have that can visually see anything past 100 miles. Clearly, according to the Globe Boys, apparently that's where this curve starts to kick in.
Well, you see, the thing is, just the geometry and physics of a ball mean that, you know, that is as accurate as you can get. 8 inch per mile squared. It's just what happens. That's just what happens on a ball. Just the way a ball is.
Yeah, I know, but not apparently not the ball to live on, according to the Globe Boys. And
I see. So, we have a special ball.
Well, yeah, I'm just passing because I thought it was hilarious when I heard it.
FE Cult Skeptic, hello? Hello?
Give him a few seconds. No, he's just dropped. Presumably a sniper.
Yeah, but I was wondering, Nathan, maybe if you had some folks, because I don't know anybody in all them places. I was wondering maybe if you know, because I'm sure that everybody would be willing to pitch in because it would put an end to this.
But what did you say they would do? Look at the sky?
I actually agree with him. If we got 2 observers in 2 of the southernmost continents and look south at the same time, we should, if we live on a ball, we should see the same stars in the same position in the sky. Guess what? There's no evidence of that. That evidence doesn't exist.
I know.
It only exists if you look at Celestia or Stellarium. Then it exists, but in real world, it doesn't exist. That evidence does not exist.
Exactly. That's why I was thinking. Puts an end.
I agree with you.
To the wonderful.
And it's the standard of evidence that I would. It's the standard of evidence that I would expect from the ballers when they make the assertion that we live on a little spinning ball. Okay, so we see that the Polaris. I don't think anybody argues about the interpretation of Polaris, but there's a lot of arguments over the interpretation of the southern skies. And I agree. If the assertion is that we live on a ball, then the evidence to support that must
Can you say something,
include
please,
that. And it
FE
doesn't.
Cult?
This is a hole in the evidence, and I agree with
Hello,
you.
FE Cult, can you hear us?
Who? Hello, Mark.
Okay, no worries. I'm going to do a
Yeah,
quick
I'm here.
link, guys, so sorry, but I'm going to turn you down just for 1 second. I hope you're all enjoying the debate thus far. We have approximately half an hour left on this live stream. If you're new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside the show while it is live. But most importantly, if you would like to join the debate, as Mark has done, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video. There are a couple of rules. Please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. When you do join the stream, please say something immediately. Don't close your mic. Just try and say a quick hello so we know that you're not here for any sort of nefarious reasons. If you've not shared the show, please share the show on social media, as this increases the live audience, of course, but that in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to this channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate.
Oh, Anthony, do you know what that boat was called that you was asserting was the coal boat?
Do I know what it's called?
Yeah, do you have its exact name so I can check
Yeah,
it up?
it's made by CSL.
Yeah.
And it's called CSL coal boat.
Invalid inquiry. Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, good to have you.
So anyway, yeah, I just want to say really quickly, Anthony has been told several times and should know by now that you can see Polaris from beyond the equator south. You can see Sigma Octantis from beyond the equator north.
You got any evidence?
So his homework today, is what latitude can you see?
I'm going to call you on
both
that, Tim.
of those from on the sphere.
I'm going to call you on that, Tim. Do you want to stay on
Thank
the line
you.
while I present evidence that shows that you can't even see Octantis? Would you
He's
like
made
to
his
see evidence
assertion and left.
from
Thank you for that, Tim Osman. Much obliged.
Who would give $10 not to have to hear this? Either side. I'm sure that both sides would like to put an end to this. I
don't
mean,
think so.
I already know what the boat thing. I already know what the comeback will be for the boat thing. So I'm just gonna wait quietly.
My understanding was it was
But
not
there's a-
visible past
there's a great
33.
comeback.
So
This
past
is a super
33
chat
degrees
heaven for him. He
latitude,
gets
you've
$2
got
a day out
you
of
can't see it anymore. So
Twinsies
that was
and
my
twinsies,
understanding, at
hello?
least with Polaris, that once you go past 33, that's when you stop being able to see it. But it is past the equator.
Are you still there, Timothy, with the girly ankles?
No,
So,
he's,
Anthony,
Tim's
what's
gone.
that boat called,
He
please?
just came in to make his assertion, which he did admirably. So you know, he didn't need to hang around. But you feel free to discredit what he claimed.
All right. Well, what I'll do,
Yeah, can you give me the name of that boat first?
Ramsay, if you type in CSL coal boat, what's it called? What's that? I can't remember the name of the kill route. Right, CSL coal boat kill route. Name of the boat is River Clyde. Oh, hang on. No, hang on. KSL Clyde.
ASL Clyde.
CSL Clyde with a CLYDE.
Okay, cheers, thanks.
I'll pull it up on the
That's all right, that's fine. Got it.
Doesn't matter. I want to show this thing about Timothy's nonsense claim about octans, the constellation known as octans. But I need to do this. I need to hang on a second. Oh, it's not that one. Right. Okay. All right, I'm going to take a screenshot of this so that I don't have to reveal part of it.
So just while you're looking that up, Paul's saying something about evidence from the chat. So what we have evidenced, Paul, is that we can see 145 miles on a flat plane. So just try and keep your focus on things that we are saying we have evidence of. We have a photograph of Ireland. I'd call that evidence. Feel free to debunk that. So far, not so good.
All right, so I have the email. I just need to get rid of one part of it. Bear with me while I scribble some stuff out. I'll leave his name, or I won't leave his name because it will dox him. I'll just leave his email address, which won't.
Okay. Got quiet for some reason. You've stopped talking into your mic.
No, I'm still here.
No, Anthony's just all muffled.
Oh, I don't know why. Maybe if I hang on.
Yeah, I don't care about Polaris. Paul saying evidence for Polaris. No, I'm not into subject changes. That was Tim Osman's assertion, and I just.
Well, I just want to show this just to shut Tim up because he's made this nonsense assertion before. All right, this is an email. The subject says Octon's inquiry to the Astronomical Society of Tasmania. And essentially, I'm asking him, does he have any evidence to show what Octons looks like? The constellation known as Octons. Because they're all very faint stars. And fundamentally, I had numerous emails back and forth,
How you doing, Jeff? How you doing? Can you hear us?
All right.
Good to have you. How you doing?
Thanks.
Jeff, are you a baller or a flat earther?
I'm what they call somebody who studies something called the absurd side of things, Lily. Manifestly absurd.
So, are you booting all of my guests, Jeff? Can you hear me, Jeff? Why are you booting all of the guests? Very disappointing. Hello.
What's happened?
That guest's just, they've decided that speaking and then sniping is obviously the best way around things.
Well, he's been sending me requests on Facebook to add me personally, and I smelt a rat with him, and I recognised the name, and I thought, bit dodgy, that guy. So, Jeff, you won't be getting added to my personal Facebook. Did Ramsay get sniped as well?
Yeah, he just joined to snipe the entire hangout.
Are you setting
I didn't
up
get a chance to ask him why we see Ireland at 145 miles before he dropped himself, unfortunately. But it would have been nice to have an answer to that question from the ball side. But, you know, slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena is their answer so far.
Corona says, I'm sure Jeff is devastated. No, Jeff was on Patricia Stee's Facebook friends list, and he's now not. So I checked and made sure that got removed. So he might not be devastated, but we can definitely say that he's definitely somebody that we don't really want to have any kind of allegiance with whatsoever.
So other than so far for this show, we're about an hour and 40 minutes in. We've had Paul from the chat claiming he can identify anything until we ask him to actually identify something, at which point he says it's just a load of blurry old pixels, the Mark Taylor defence. So, other than that, we've had literally nobody to challenge what we are asserting here, which is that we see Ireland at 145 miles, and we see Lagness Lighthouse at 51 miles, proving that it is Ireland in the background. Nobody can challenge this. Nobody's got anything. All they can do is claim that stuff on the lowlands they can't identify either because it's too blurry. That's it. That's the best they've got.
But I want to also remind people that what we're showing in the evidence, because it doesn't match the globe on the Google Earth globe, that's telling you that the real world evidence is not the same as the Google Earth. And that is my position from day one.
As a flat earther, we challenge, question, and see whether your model does what your model says it does. And we're seeing massive problems with it because they're trying to tell us that our line of sight is simply the island. That's a narrow line of sight. But I've just shown that there was evidence that supported it being the lower part of Scotland that just so happened to have a lighthouse in the right place. It followed the contour line of that land, and you could see the land off to the right. You could also see Kilroot Power Station in the background, and that is evidence that supports it not being Google Earth. And the grid lines show that them lines are really bendy on a ball. However, when you go there and do the observation yourself, they're not bendy at all. They're just in front of you. They're just there. So it appears that normal visibility, the normal conditions of visibility allow you to see 40, 50 miles maybe. But on that particular day, it was just clear. And it was very clear. And I could see clear, further, and much more than what we're supposed to be able to see. So again, it's not supporting that this Google ball, we should call it a Google ball, because it's not really Earth, is it? It's just this ball, this projection, or a model, or whatever you want to call it, is not what we live on. Them bendy lines are not bendy in real world. They're straight. They're there. You're looking at them. You're not bending around no curve. There is no curve to see. There's no wall of water stopping us from seeing stuff. And fundamentally, it's not matching. And if at any part it starts to fall apart, how much evidence do you take on face value before you start questioning that which you believe to be true? And the answer is, it falls apart really quite quick when you go to a certain point. What? Oh. So,
can you add
Google
Randy
is not
to the
doing
call,
what it should be doing.
because he's not part of this call now.
Who's not?
Shane.
I can re-add him.
Yes, please. Not bad. Hour and 40 minutes without having the show shut down. That's not bad at all.
Yeah,
although the link is still public and he's not in the Hangout anymore, so, you know, although he's in the back chat, so if you did join, chances are he's sat there now for the next 20 minutes, feeling like he's doing something to save the globe from death.
Yo.
Hello again.
Hello.
Sleeping Warrior, why are you making any claims at all? You don't have a CPC to make such manifestly absurd claims, lol. So what, Paul? What's that got to do with the shape of the Earth? What's that? Nothing. Where's your GPS coordinates for the thing that everybody else has identified, Paul? We're waiting for you to come back to it with it. Go on, Paul. GPS, please. Riley and his girlfriend were fined £378 for at least being incompetent. That's hilarious. It was actually £2,400, actually, Mark. If you do a bit more research, you'll find out exactly how much it was. But because you suck at research, you've not got the right value. £2,400 it was, Mark.
They're pathetic, aren't they? And to be fair, what does that actually have to do with
Nothing.
The flat Earth?
Nothing, and I won't be addressing any part of it because I want them to show how this is not Ireland.
No. So, I mean, what's the point in digging that information up anyway? We all know Mark's the stalker postman, but, you know, we don't go around saying it every time we go online, do we?
So Mark says it was more than £3,000, Riley, but he's put £378 in chat. So either, Mark, you've typed or you've made a mistake, Mark.
Skid mark, Taylor.
Thomas Williams, Sleeping Warrior, added ever person called Riley on Facebook.
We might have a fake Tim, but I'm pretty sure he just joined on a different account like he did last time, but I'll try and say hello to him. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Oh, brilliant.
Oh, great. Glad you come back. Let me share my screen there, Nath, if you don't mind.
No, just sniping the guy out of here. Anyway, have you done your homework yet?
No, I'm going to ask you to do some homework for me because I've done your homework already in advance and I can answer you completely.
No. You made the assertion that you couldn't see Polaris from beyond south of the equator and vice versa. So can you on the spherical model, is that what they're claiming?
Have you got any evidence that I've said that?
Can you see Polaris from south of the equator? Can you
evidence that I said that?
Can you or not?
Can you evidence that I said that?
Can you see Polaris from south of the equator? I'm asking you right now.
I've no idea.
Oh, okay. Can you see
There
the
are
Sigma
reports.
10s from north of the equator?
I don't know.
Okay, I rest
know-
my case. Thank you all for having me on. This has been Timothy Osman with another public service announcement.
Thanks for being here. Pleasure to have you as always.
Next time you come, Tim, bring some evidence with you, because if you're going to cite me for saying something, it would help if you proved that I did say it. Then I can recall what the context was and whether it was relevant to the point that you're actually making. In the absence of any evidence of citations from me, Timothy, they'll all be rejected. You can't come to the discussion without bringing evidence for the assertions in which you seek to rely upon. Anyway, Paul Voigt, GPS coordinates, please. We know that you're in there. You claim that you can get it. So bring your GPS coordinates. You know you can identify all of these buildings.
Did you want to screen share something?
No, not now.
Oh, okay.
It was just to do with Tim, but he ran like a little girl. And his girl.
Yeah, it would appear that, by all accounts, the boat might not be the boat you're looking for, but we'll see. I think it's had a name change for a start. But I'm also looking for the historic data in that location, so I'll find which boat it was for sure.
CSL Clyde, a self-discharging bulk is seen here arriving at Hunterston to load coal for the Kilbrook power station in Northern Ireland. Yeah, it does appear to be that CSL Clyde. It's the same shape, same colour, same path. Why is the panel trolling Paul? Oh, I can answer that. Oh no, I've not got it open anymore.
Sorry, go. I'm just going to say, when I look for the CSL Clyde, it doesn't appear that it's a boat that's actually in operations at the minute and hasn't been for some time. So it's possible it's a different boat.
That's what I was looking at on the thing. I mean, if you just type in Kilbrook Power Station,
I mean, for instance, there's the AASNES, which is an identical looking boat. So that could be the one. That's a self-discharging bulk carrier that was around as well. So whatever happens, by tomorrow, I'll have this nailed down, which boat it was, etc. It's going to take a bit of work to find it out.
Actually,
well, sorry to just add this in there. I mean, there's a boat, correct, in our field of view that, according to the Globers, is between the Isle of Man and England. Well, how many boats travel on that little causeway? How many boats travel that stretch of water? Well, again, like the chimney stacks, that boat must be between us and the Isle of Man. So find out what that boat is, Globers, and tell us what it is and how often it goes between England and the Isle of Man, because that's where it's going or coming from.
Well, I'll be able to, with the details I know about this observation, I'll be able to find the boat.
Nath, just put my screen on.
It's just going to take a bit of time, that's all.
Just give me a couple of seconds.
Sure. Now, whilst Nathan's doing this, I'm going to address two people. Somebody says, new and old, Sleeping Warrior, can you stop asking for ballers? Don't go asking for them if they are boycotting. They don't. If you don't have anything to sow, if you don't have anything to do, then don't say anything. No, we've got an offer from Sean Hufford to come on and join, and I'd like to extend that. I'd like to graciously accept his offer. And I'll come to that in a sec. Are we seeing my screen, Nath?
We are. Hooray!
Right. This is the boat that it appears to be. Now, CSL is the brand, the company name. And it appears to be called whatever it was, River Clyde. CSL Clyde. Oh, that might be Clyde as in the River Clyde. That might be a red herring, that, Ranty. You can see this is the boat that appears to be in the image, and it matches what it looks like, and it just so happens to be discharging at Kilbrook Power Station in this photo here. CSL Clyde is a self-discharging bulker seen here arriving at Hunterston to load coal for the Kilbrook Power Station in Northern Ireland. So he's on the other side of the trip, but that appears to be the boat. That looks like what we're looking at. But with regard to the, can you please stop pestering the ballers for? Well, we're not going to be. You ballers claim to be on a thing, but the reality is you got nothing. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to play two clips from Sean Hufford's bully boy tactics from his hangout from last night. Sean Hufford is a misrepresentative, lying, dishonest little sneak. He misrepresents my words all the time, and I call you on it all the time, Sean. And you make that many misrepresentations that I will be here all week correcting them with the evidence, and you're not worth it. However, last night you gave Ramsay the chance to, you didn't give Ramsay the chance to go in your hangout, and you made a load of representations, and I'm going to call you on it, Sean. So, Mr. Hufford, I'm going to play your words. Let me just make sure I'm sharing my sound. So this is what Sean said last night.
If Nathan wants to play fair on his debates, I'll be happy to go on and be nice. I'll be civil.
So, Nathan, are you prepared to play? What does he say?
If Nathan wants to play fair on his debates, I'll be happy to go on and...
Now, I'm not sure what Sean considers to be fair, okay? But I'm going to assert that Nathan has been fair because he's left the link open for anybody to join. And if people disagree with stuff, that's fine. But we're asking for the evidence that shows that we're not looking at Ireland and we're only looking at Isle of Man. So, Nathan, he wants you to be, quote, fair. Is there anything that you might want to say to Sean with regards to being fair?
I know Tim Osmond's considered a very anti-flat Earth proponent, and he's been able to join and express his views freely, and I've welcomed him to do so. I hope Tim has been set as an example on this very show.
And I'd like to just let the record show that Tim, when asked for evidence, he ran. So, in the context of being fair, I don't think it's fair that somebody comes to the table without evidence. But in any event, that's the next clip. And I'll play this all the way through, and then I'll answer it in the end.
Looming under standard refraction, which is, you're not really seeing much more than standard at that point. It's just Anthony lied about his fucking height. And that's been brought out, and he actually tried to cover his ass until I got involved, and he tried to say, oh, well, I still say 52 feet. After earlier in their hangout where he was like, yeah, I was 100 feet. After, of course, Miles gave that footage that he didn't want to release, that Anthony didn't want to have out there because he knew he was full of shit. Even his first location was higher than 52 feet. So, yeah, Ranty, you and Anthony have both lied your asses off to get popular on Nathan's channel. And here's the funny part. You're taking him down with you guys. I love it.
So, Nathan, apparently we're taking you down with us, and Sean loves it, but wants to come on and discuss. And I can see that he's in chat now, so great. We've heard what you've said, Sean. You said a lot of stuff in that hangout. And to be fair, Sean, if Ranty's in text and you're bashing him, it is the courtesy to give the guy a chance to respond. You should have given him the link and let him come on, because you're bad-mouthing him. He's got a right to defend himself. But not only has he got the right to defend himself, he was actually correct as far as I can tell. I'm not quite sure exactly what the points were, but it appears that shutter speed, Ramsay said that when the camera is recording in video mode, that it doesn't use the shutter, as far as I can work out, and I agree that it doesn't. It uses an electronic piece of software that represents a shutter speed, but it doesn't actually use a shutter. So I'm not quite sure what the argument is there, and I may, I can sound corrected, but it would appear that Ramsay's position is correct. The point with parallax, Google Earth parallaxes, real world parallaxes. Ramsay was pointing out that when you take the observation point from St. Bees, the parallax is different on Google Earth than what it is when you're at Zoom, because Google changes its parallax, and he's quite right. And everything lines up when we don't do it the way that you want us to do it. Everything lines up. And it shows, again, that we're looking at Ireland. So with regard to this lying thing about the observer height, I mean, I know that you're new to the table, Sean. I know that you haven't really seen very much, and it's obvious by the comments that you're making. I'll show you again for the benefit of Sean. I don't even really want to do this, to be honest, because I've done it that many times.
Well, can I just clarify something?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, last night he did a hangout. I think it was about an 8 or a 10-minute hangout. And all he did was just swear and call me out and say I was a coward and this, that, and the other. And it was all based on the simple misunderstanding from his perspective. When he said in chat, I cannot get on because somebody has you blocked. And he said that I said that he was not blocked. I didn't have him blocked. Now, I didn't say a single word. I never said anything. That's the whole premise here. He called me a liar and said that I had said on Nathan's chat, and I'm going to actually upload a video later about it.
Don't bother wasting your time.
Well, he said that I had said that I didn't have him blocked. So he called me a damn right liar when I never said a single word. In actual fact, it was Spurs Chemo and yourself who both said, we don't have you blocked. I never said a single word.
Bye, Grim.
So he decided to do a hangout on that about me, 10 minutes slagging me off. And then when I went into his chat to confront him about that, he basically wouldn't acknowledge it. Didn't want to talk about it. Just wanted to slag me off again. So
we're going to be rounding out in a couple of minutes, Ranty. So rather than, really sorry, Ranty, rather than this ending about Sean Hufford, can we just talk about something that's like proof-based and just not gossip-based? Because we've only got a couple of minutes.
Let me just summarise it for the benefit of Sean, right? Sean thinks that for some reason that this is a lie. Now, Sean doesn't understand what a lie is. But my position, Sean, and I've never conceded to 100 feet. I only did it for the sake of Lewis. And there was an argument about using the Ordnance Survey. And we used it for that hangout, and it was a concession for that hangout. My position is still the same. I was at 35 feet, which is this point here, because that's what it says. And I was at 52 feet at the top point. No, I think is it that one? That appears to have changed. Hang on, I must be on the wrong angle here. Let me get the.
Okay, can I just intersect here one last time, and I won't get involved again. But Seeds of Doubt again is saying something. He says, "Rant, all you did was slag off in chat. Dude, don't take the high ground when you are just as bad." How am I just as bad? I have nothing to do with Sean Hufford. Sean Hufford has released he'd released 2 full videos about me, and then he was doing a live hangout calling me out. I haven't done anything to him. I've not even spoken to the guy. So I literally came into the chat to try and talk to him, and I was getting sworn at. What do you expect me to do?
Right, Sean, we've only got 60 seconds, Sean, but let me just clear it up for you, because you're obviously late to the table and you're not listening, and you're going to go misrepresent my words. So just copy and paste my words right now. I claim that I was at 52 feet, because that's what it says on your model. I also claim I was at 35 feet, because that's what it says at your model. That's it. I haven't conceded or changed my position, and I didn't do anything because you got involved, and I'm calling you out, Sean. If you want a fair discussion, debate, or whatever, bring it. Bring your evidence, show us where we're getting this wrong, and when we can have a full-on debate. And we can even do it closed doors if you want, so there's no trolls. Just me, you, Nathan, Ranty, he's involved. And you can bring GeoStreamer in if you want. Bring it, Sean.
And with that, I'm going to say, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and sharing this show. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.